Once again, we want your help designing a part of the ship. This time, the saloon.
My name is Gijs and this is my dad. And this is Schoener Tijgerhaai. We have recently started a major rebuild to get her ready for new adventures. And we're sharing the process with you. Subscribe to stay tuned.
The past 3 weeks, we've been completing some leftover jobs after dry dock. And we took the opportunity to finish small bits and bobs in and outside. So, we have been busy, but nothing major, which also happens now and then. We did take a swing at the remaining interior of the Wheelhouse, but we'll get to that in a minute. First, I want to ask you all to give the new layout of our saloon a thought. We haven't started work in the saloon yet, so we can freely discuss all options and ideas to include in the new interior. To visualize our ideas, I've made a quick and dirty 3D drawing of the aft ship. This is what it looks like right now. We call it the saloon because it's kind of a combination of a galley and a mess room, which are the kitchen and dining room on a boat. Apart from that, it's also the living room. Altogether, the saloon. Behind the aft wall of the saloon is the aft cabin, which had a 1 and a 2-person bunk, the steering gear, some steps to the escape hatch and a big empty floor space. That last one is kind of a waste of valuable space that we'd rather utilize. So the back wall has to go. In the aft cabin, the transom limits the flat floor space. To compensate for that, the floor is raised by ½ meter, which means you can't stand up straight there. For now, we're getting rid of that too. Our first idea was to create a big round seat in the back and a round table further to the aft than the current one. This would increase the floor area in the middle of the saloon and we'd be able to fit loads of people for dinner. The downside of this idea is that we've reduced the amount of sleeping bunks by 3. In an ideal scenario, we would like to house 12 passengers and 3 crew members on the longer trip. And losing 3 bunks here makes that near impossible. We could create 2 bunks around the backrests of the couch with curtains or small doors, but you're kind of sleeping in the saloon then and people tend to make a bit of noise there. That is less than ideal. Being a ship, there is some stuff here that we have to work around. These 2 pillars support the deck above and the rudder stock is running through the saloon to the poop deck. The steering gear would be located underneath the table. So if we lose the table, it takes up a lot of space. But we are going to replace the 80-year-old cylinders because they are leaky and only single acting. So they are twice as big as more modern double acting hydraulic cylinders. With that replacement, we can play around with the location and the orientation of the cylinders. And although the new steering gear also needs a foundation, it makes it possible to free up some floor space, which allows for more interior options. For example, a crew cabin with 2 bunks that is insulated against noise. I say crew cabin because the other cabins on the ship are much more spacious. And then half a round couch and table. Or we could make the table a bit more narrow and shift the cabin door to the side, creating space for another small table. In other words, plenty possibilities. We have considered a cabin on both sides, but that would just create a hallway in the middle to the escape ladder that's not of much use for the rest. All the previous seat options leave quite a big aft space that can be used for nothing else but storage. We could steal some of this space by raising the floor by 20 centimeters. Tall people wouldn't be able to stand up straight, but as long as we only use it for sitting, that shouldn't be a problem. The downside of that is that we create a height difference between the seats, and the table would be rather high for the current seats. Those were some of the many possibilities for the current aft cabin. For the rest of the saloon, a few things are fixed, like the location of the toilet, entrance of the engine room and exit to the wheelhouse. And in the galley, the sink and the stove, so that we don't have to change the cooker hood and the drain. What we would like to add is an extra countertop, to create a U-shaped galley. This is the layout that was used during the previous world trip, but afterwards it was removed to create extra floor space for my sisters and me to play. Since we've all grown up now, we would like a similar setup. Finally, we would like to reinstall a wood stove in the center of the saloon for that nice and cozy heat. There's not much choice location-wise, since we have the skylight and other deck equipment that would be in the way of the exhaust funnel. You can still see where the old gas stove funnel was penetrating the deck. That was just a handful of options for the layout of the saloon. Now, if you have any ideas, anything that I didn't think of, or just your opinion on the things that I did think of, we would like you to let us know in the comment section so that we can create the perfect saloon. Speaking of perfect, we haven't finished the perfect wheelhouse yet. So this is a good time to pick up that project. We have insulated and paneled around 3/4 of the wheelhouse. What's remaining is the complete aft side. For starters, we have to remove the fixed part of the old hinges of the hatch to the saloon, which used to open sideways. We don't want any bare steel in the wheelhouse, because it's all connected to the deck and the hull, and steel is a great heat conductor. To make insulating easy, we have to reduce protruding parts to a minimum. The only way to cut the remainder of the hinges off flat is very carefully by torch. While we were torching anyway, we have to cut some holes in the old chart table. The reason for these holes is that we need a hot and cold water supply and a sink drain, because we want to create a pantry in the wheelhouse. Fortunately, the old chart table is located directly above the galley, so we only have to extend those pipes by a little bit. This small secondary galley enables you to make coffee, tea or soup and clean your cup afterwards while keeping a lookout. Ideal for when you're alone on watch, day or night. And it makes doing dishes or making coffee during sailing just that little bit more fun, being able to see the world pass by. Whoops! For the countertop, we still have some used but still good mahogany plywood left over that we've also used for the navigational console and the other tops in the wheelhouse. While test fitting the parts to see how it works out, I noticed that this small induction heater has a fan inside, which means that it probably needs fresh air to flow underneath the countertop. Not a problem, I will just cut 2 holes in the side, no one will notice. Since this whole surface is also just bare steel, I am installing a layer of Armaflex, just as a bit of insulation and to prevent condensation on the cold steel. Now what you don't want is a pan of hot soup in your neck when walking up the stairs. So we've taken an old hardwood fence post and sliced it up, to create a nice high edge for the side of the countertop. It does require some effort to make it look interior worthy, but it pays off when it's finished. We are insulating the front and side as well, even though behind it is just a galley. And to cover it all up, I'm installing the walnut paneling that we have used for the rest of the wheelhouse as well. Around the heater, we're installing a small frame to keep the pan from sliding off into the sink. And that's the pantry for now. We can't connect the faucet and the sink yet. That will happen when we are doing the interior of the saloon. What we have to do first is put a door in the aft entrance of the wheelhouse. That's a job that's been on our list for a very long time, but that we keep putting off in favor of other jobs. Now that we're busy installing the final insulation and paneling, we need the door frame to be in place in order to know what goes where. So we're cutting up some more old hardwood fence posts to create a durable door frame. You probably know by now that we are not carpenters, so may the wooden boat building community forgive me for any atrocities that I might be committing. We can reuse the doors of the old wheelhouse, which are a bit tall but otherwise fit perfectly. They just need some paint to look fresh again. All I need to do now is transfer the hinges. After a couple layers of varnish, everything can be installed. The wheelhouse isn't finished yet, but this is all for now. Don't forget to leave your opinion about the layout of the saloon in the comment section. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.